Would you rather have a bye week or go 10 or 11 straight games?
I'd rather have a bye week. You know, it gets you an extra week as long as it's towards the middle to end of the year to get healthy and get refreshed. You know, before the home stretch of the season, and especially if you got playoffs and you could extend your season another 4 or 5 weeks. So definitely towards the end of the year, a bye week would be much more beneficial, I believe, and especially in a sport like football where it's so physical and you don't get very much time off. Especially if you go 11 straight weeks.
So if you have a spring break coming around with your team, how do you approach it? As in, are you going to let them off, or would you like to play through it, to keep them around, or you like to let them go home?
It's a good question. Usually spring break occurs about halfway through the season. I like to schedule a game during spring break because usually what happens is you'll play a weekend set, then you've got spring break, and then you play another weekend set. So we'll have about 5 or 6 days off there. You figure 1 for travel or 2 of them for travel, coming back and then going. So then you would have 4 days off. If I can't schedule a single game during that time, then what I'll do is I'll usually tell the guys take 2 days off and then come back and do 2 days of practice to get ready. Usually by that time of year, having a couple days off is better than trying to practice for 4 or 5 straight days.
Road games or away games?
Oh, definitely. Road games or away games, same thing.
Bro, home games or away games?
Roasted me, huh? Okay. Definitely home games. I mean, atmosphere here is great, and we play really well at home. Much rather play at home. Sleep in your own bed, all that good stuff.
Well, home games are always fun. You know, the community gets to see you. You build that energy. Obviously, you know the court, you know the rims. But most of your important games are probably going to be on the road in regards to playoffs and if you're looking at the international tournament. So it's good to have that kind of mix, but road games are important, but you have to protect your own court no matter what. So
I do our travel here, and so I personally would rather play a home game. As far as it goes for me, because the amount of stuff you have to do on a road game, buses, hotels, you have to really depend on a lot of people. You know, with home games, a lot of that stuff, keeping the team together and kind of having control of them, a lot of it is stuff you can control. Whereas on the road, you don't know if the bus is going to show up on time. Are the rooms going to be reserved when you get to the hotel? Is the restaurant you're eating team meal at Friday night, are they going to be ready for you? Did they overbook? Did they book another team and not tell you? It's just a lot of things that you can't control. Is the post-game meal going to be delivered? The guy's going to have food after the game for the drive home. And, the home game, you don't have to worry about a lot of that stuff and a lot of distractions, that are taken off their plate by just being at home. Then, some people will talk about, you keep them away in a hotel room on road games, so they don't have the distractions of the things, maybe friends who don't play, guys who don't travel, going out to, wherever they go on weekends. You don't have that when you're on the road, so you can kind of control things a little bit more. But on the other hand, the stuff I talked about is really out of your control. So, there's a mix there, but I honestly would rather play at home.
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, you would like to play at home because of, you're always the home team. You get the last at bat. However, there have been years I've been in tournaments where, because we were so good offensively and not very good pitching-wise, that, to use a football analogy, we would want the ball first to try to get ahead. So there have been postseason tournaments where you flip a coin to determine the home team, and if we would win the coin flip, we would actually say we would want to be visitors instead of the home to try to get ahead. So generally speaking, you like to have the last at bat, but I like being the visitor. And, when I was at Missouri State, the year we went to Omaha, we were on the road for both rounds of the tournament to go to the World Series, and I like the element of being on the road because when you're on the road, especially in the postseason, guys are in the hotel. It's just us. We don't have to worry about all the elevator music that goes on. When I was in junior college as a head coach, I liked the idea of being on the road as well because when you're at home, you've got to worry about, all the periphery stuff. The fans, with tickets, you've got to worry about getting the field prep. You got to worry about stuff. When you are the visitor on the road, you just show up and play. And I like that.
How can you change the status of a losing program to a winning program when you take over?
I think the first thing you got to do is establish your culture and how you expect things to be and how you expect your players to act and react to certain situations. The culture's got to be the first thing, and then recruit the players that you need to come in and change the way the things have been in the past and get the right character players in. And I think that's the first two steps you do. And then after that, you start developing the players both in the classroom and in the weight room and on the field.
Long process, but it starts with culture right away. I mean, how do we go about, establishing an aura there that we want to get better? And I think the ways you do that is to invest in the people, invest in coaches, invest in getting players in here. And then once you get coaches and players in here, what do? You've got to train them appropriately. So all the funds, all the energy, all the focus needs to go into what can I do with the people first. And once we can establish that and get something going, then items like things, okay, improvements to stadiums, improvements to facilities, whatever that may be, that takes care of itself. But I think the culture, no, I don't think that. I know that. The culture starts with people, period.
What's the hardest part about recruiting in general?
Recruiting's fun. Recruiting's, it's not really hard. The most painstaking part is being away from home a lot, driving a lot, being on the road a lot. Having to scour the earth basically to find the players that you need to come in and have that winning season, and finding the characteristics you want in each kid, and being real diligent, thorough in your process would probably be the most painstaking part. But it's not really hard. I wouldn't say hard is the right word, but again, the most painstaking part is doing your homework on each and every kid.
I think just the amount of hours that you got to put into it, because for me, for example, I recruit Tulsa. It's a 3-hour drive to get there to school. By the time it starts at 8 o'clock, so I'm up at 5, driving to Tulsa. Then I go to schools all day. And then you may go see a basketball game or something that night. You may not get home till 10 o'clock, and then occasionally we'll have a staff meeting after that when we get home. So you're looking at leaving at 5 in the morning, getting home at 10 to meet, and then maybe be done by midnight. So I think it's just the long hours, the amount of kids you evaluate, for the amount that you sign is that ratio is huge. You may talk to 120 kids, from the start in the spring, and you as an individual position coach or in your area, you may sign 3 or 4. So it's just a lot of work to really get down to those final 3 or 4.
You don't know how the kid is going to be until they get on campus and they're away from mom and dad. You can sit there and you can evaluate talent, and we all have our ideas of what talent that we want. The hardest thing is the unknown factor is, how is that kid going to be when he's away from mom and dad and he's in an environment that he has never been accustomed to?
Is it better to recruit JUCO guys, high school, or have a good mix?
You gotta have a good mix. I think you need to definitely have more high school kids than junior college kids, because those high school kids for 4 years are really the foundation of what you're trying to build culturally. But you do have to have junior college kids that can come in and play right away to fill holes that you might have had in missing out on certain recruits in certain positions.
Ideally, you'd like to have a mix. I think when you're trying to get something going at the 4-year level, I think you do want to get some more. You want to balance it where there's more JUCO guys, because you do have veteran guys that have a sense of what you want to accomplish. Okay, because they're 21 years old and they have a little bit more flavor to them in terms of experience. They've got 400 at bats possibly coming in here. They know how to practice because it's junior college. They know the grind. They understand that stuff, and they can help instill that on 4-year guys. However, I think to really have sustainability, you got to really invest in the high school guy, and the longevity is with the high school guy more so than the junior college guy.
Coming from JUCO ranks, I coached JUCO before I got here. It's kind of a bit of a mix. JUCO players usually more ready to go, especially in our instance now, being a new team, new coaches who want someone that's game ready, but also you need program guys or high school kids to kind of stay with you for the long haul, and by the end of your 3 or 4 years, they're talented and ready to go as well. So it's good to have a mix.
I honestly believe to get to the point where you want to be, that you should really build from the base with high school guys, but there are, it's really about fit. In my time as a coach, I've had junior college guys who were great, and I've had junior college guys who were just a waste of time, money, effort, and really they set you back another year because they didn't fit. You didn't get what you thought you were getting, which can happen with high school guys too, but when you're recruiting junior college, it's usually to play right away. With high school guys, you have 2-3 years to get them ready. Once you get your program developed, they have 3 years to kind of figure things out, make sure to grow up a little bit. Whereas a junior college guy, when you're recruiting those guys, they need to be ready to play day one. And if they're not, then you're out right there.
Why is football the best sport?
Obviously I coach it, so I think it's the best sport. For me personally, I believe that it takes so many more players doing, being on the same page in any other sport, because you're playing with 11 guys, at any given time, 11 on special teams, 11 on offense, 11 on defense, and just the sheer number, to get the sheer number of kids, 100 plus players on the same page each and every day, each and every week through meetings, practice, off season, to go towards that common goal, and just, again, the amount. And obviously, I enjoy the game and the all facets of the game because.
Why is baseball the best sport?
Well, it teaches you failure. It teaches you how to deal with failure, and it teaches you how to deal with failure in front of people. That's a tough thing to do because you are on a stage by yourself. You are the batter. You are the pitcher. You are the fielder. No one else is around you, and so you have to be able to deal with failure when you're by yourself, because you can't blame anybody else, because you know what, Jack? That was you who made that error. That wasn't anybody else. That was you who struck out. That wasn't anybody else. You can't pass blame. You have to accept accountability.
Impact on individuals. One person can impact the game. Football, it takes a team effort, obviously, but if one person does their job, then it really negates the ability of someone else.
Who's the greatest NFL player of all time?
Obviously, this is opinion. My favorite player of all time was Walter Payton. Played for Chicago Bears, was all-time leading rusher before Emmitt Smith broke it. But I'd say probably the best player of all time, most dominant player of all time is Jerry Rice. Played receiver for the 49ers and Oakland Raiders for a long time, and just the most dominant player at his position ever. So, given that fact, I'd probably say he's probably the best player of all time.
Who is the greatest MLB player of all time?
Jackie Robinson.
Is it better to have a system and then make the kids fit your system, or see what you have and then fit a system around the kids?
I think you got to do a little bit of both. I think you got to do a little bit of both, where you have your system and you find out what the kids are good at doing and what each individual player is good at doing, and make sure that they fit that role, and your system fits the role that's going to make each and individual player successful. So I think you got to have a mix of that too. It's not just all or all one way or the other, because you're never probably going to get exactly what you want at every single player in every single position. So you really find out what they're really good at and play to their strengths. Give it within your system.
Well, you got to adapt. I still think at the end of the day, you've got to have a foundation of your program, okay? And the players have to be able to adapt to that foundation. Now, within that means then you have to be good enough to adjust. And so, for example, if we have a team here that wants to run around a lot, but we don't have the rabbits to do it, well, then we've got to be more creative in that running game. So maybe not the straight steals. Maybe you do some more hit and runs. Maybe you just don't run at all. Maybe you do things on the bases that makes people think about you, even though you're not stealing bases. So from that standpoint, yes, you got to adjust. However, the foundation of the program's the same. And if you can't get on board with the foundation, then we got to go from there. But strategy-wise, yes, you have to adjust a little bit based on your personnel.
Do you think Pete Rose should get into the Hall of Fame before Bonds?
Yes. I really think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame now. And I think Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. But there should be something there in the Hall of Fame that talks about the entire picture, that talks about the indiscretions that they had in terms of the gambling with Pete Rose and in terms of the steroid abuse. But should they be in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. They are part of the fabric of over 100 years of Major League Baseball.
Not no good, and up the ladder goes Devin George, now to Kobe. Still 6.5 to play in the third. He pulls up for a three, yes!
It's the NBA.
Life in the league. Here's Kobe trying to move around Mo Pete, trying to put him up. Finally shoots, counted in the foul. He just threw one in many.
Oh, okay.
Kobe Bryant, 28 for 46 from the field. This would be 18 for 20 from the line.
Pumping, ain't worried about nothing, but the story was frontin', so reload and keep jumping. I'm still ballin'. Till the day I die, you can bring your crew, you can bring your...
Jackie Robinson hit that ball. It went zooming across the left field wall.
Deals. And Bonds hits one high. It's a deep. It is out of here. 7:56. Stands alone. He is on top of the all-time home run list. 86 with 5 2/10 left, and now they're one stop away. Oh my goodness! 17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan open. Chicago with the lead. The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship in the last 8 years. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Wow. His third block of the game as we come up on a minute and a half remaining. But again, get into your stuff quicker.
Unless you absolutely have killed him, you will never stop him from coming after you.